This is a little bit about my journey, about myself. My name is Kim Smith, as I was introduced, and I was born and grew up in Hinsdale, Illinois, which is a suburb outside of Chicago. I was born to a young couple, the firstborn of 3 kids. My father is an immigrant from Honduras, a small country in Central America. He came to the United States when he was 19 years old. As I said, my folks were very young when they got married and had me. When I was, my mother's parents are from Indiana, where her mother is from, and then her father is from Denmark, and my mother was also raised in Hinsdale. When I was about 7 years old, my parents were divorced, and of course I stayed with my mother. My mother remarried, went back to school, and graduated from nursing school when I was in 8th grade. And one of the lessons that she taught me was make sure you get an education because you never know when you have to support yourself. So that was good counsel. On my mother's side of the family, lots of the adults on that side were complainers, and I soon picked up this trait. About the time I was in junior high, one of my classmates said to me, "You complain a lot." And that made a great impression on me, and so I made up my mind at that time that I was not only going to not complain, but I was also going to be the most cheerful, radiant classmate that they had ever had. And so that made an impression on me. My father's side of the family was quite a contrast to my mother's side. They were a very loving family, lots of hugs and kisses and I love yous, and it was just a delight to be around my father's side of the family. And I know that my mother loved my father's side of the family because of that, and she brought us up in that environment. As I said, my father is from Honduras. When I was about 10 years old, he moved back to Honduras. He had remarried and moved back to Honduras for about 5 years to work down there. Well, the 3 of us would go down during the summertime and visit him. And one particular summer, I was 12 years old. Just before going down to Honduras to visit him, I made a demand on my mother that even now I'm embarrassed to think about. And I demanded that she get me a particular notebook. I don't know why I felt like I had to have that notebook, but I did. And she bought it for me. It was nothing special, but it just was something that I insisted that I have. Well, once I got down to Honduras and saw the poverty of that country, saw how the kids hardly had anything, maybe 1 or 2 changes of clothes to wear, no shoes, and not much money for school, I was very ashamed of myself for how I had behaved previously. And once I got back to the United States, that visit to Honduras probably put a stop to my complaining as well. That brings me to high school. I went to a boarding high school. One of my roommates was from Korea. And we just had a wonderful time talking about the Korean culture, about her family, the foods that she ate. So when I got to college, there was a program that I was very interested in, which was the student missions program. And wouldn't you know, one of the places that we could go was to Korea. So I signed up for that program and spent a year in Korea teaching English and Bible classes. And that was one of the best years of my life. Traveling has broadened my horizons and expanded my mind like none other. And I've encouraged my children to do the same. After I went to college and graduated from nursing school, I got married, and my first child was one of those other events that was very memorable. Once I had my first child, I knew what I was cut out for in life, and that was to be a mother. I just loved the nurturing aspects, and I just loved having a baby. In fact, when my 3rd child was born, I was still in the hospital, and I would just have her here on my chest, and the nurse would come in, and she said, "You're going to spoil that baby." I said, "I don't care. Kids, babies grow up before you know it, and I'm going to spoil this one." I don't have any grandchildren, but I hope to have many, many, many that I can spoil. About 9 or 10 years ago, my husband passed away at the age 44, and it was from a cardiac arrest without any advance warning. And as you can imagine, that gave me a lot of things to go through and a lot of thoughts, the grieving process and wondering how things were going to come together economically for us, and how my daughter especially was going to cope with the adjustment. But she's done very well. And 18 months after that, my younger sister passed away from cancer, and she was only 39. Even though we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, I still miss her, but I have many girlfriends that have helped ease the loss. I remember at her funeral thinking, I just feel helpless like a 12-year-old child, and I just wanted to tell one of the adults, please help me get my younger sister out of that casket. Let's just go home and forget about this nightmare. But like I said, a lot of my girlfriends have helped ease that loss. The journey continues for my future, and I hope to continue my education, do a lot more traveling, and complete a half marathon. And one of the things that I feel like I've been blessed with is a wonderful family and wonderful friends, and especially the friends that I've made in this group, the Toastmasters Club, where I can improve my leadership skills and my public speaking abilities.
As we normally have in every meeting, we have at 12 from 12 noon to 1. We normally have introduction to first speaker and